Hello?
Hello. Hi.
Hello!
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
A little bit tired, otherwise enthusiastic. Normally, of course, I would speak to you with the greatest emphasized respect. However, I am exhausted at the moment, so if I seem at all bleary or confusing, that is entirely on me, and I apologize.
You sound extremely lucid, and I appreciate you giving me that respect. It's much appreciated, and I hope I can return it back to you.
Yeah, so I I I understand this was somewhat sprung upon you. I imagine that you weren't familiar with my intentions before I went ahead with the stream, but I mean, oh, look at that. It's been 24 hours as of right now. It's noon. Oh, wow. It's up to about 260,000 now. Um
Amazing.
Anyway, I'm a political live streamer, and we all know what's going on right now, Israel and
Yeah.
Palestine. I wanted to help out in whatever way I could. If I flew over there and tried to do anything useful, I would probably just get in people's way. So I thought it would be better to give money to people who know what they're doing. And I understand that over the course of my live stream fundraiser, your office actually got hit by an IDF airstrike. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct. Our office was destroyed actually yesterday afternoon. We happen to be across the street from the Ministry of Health in Gaza City, an office that I've spent many, many hours looking out the window and wishing that the cars would stop honking their horns. Never imagining that it would be hit by a missile, although in Gaza that's not as unlikely as one might imagine in this day and age. But yeah, it was completely destroyed yesterday. Thankfully, none of our staff were there. They've been working from home since the bombing started. Excuse me. And but there were many injured across the street in the Ministry of Health. Of course, they don't. They have clinics there, and one of the main lab for COVID-19 testing, the only lab in Gaza for COVID-19 tested, was destroyed. So, but yeah, our office was a great loss, but those can be rebuilt. Thankfully, none of our staff were injured.
Then, well, it is excellent that none of the staff were injured.
Yeah.
I should have specified at the beginning, by the way. There are alongside me about 10,000 people watching the live
Oh,
stream. My apologies. I normally don't lead with that because people know, but in this context, well, to summarize, they sympathize significantly, and they say hi to you.
yeah.
By the way,
Well, I want to say hi back, and I want to say thank you first to you, and then to the rest of the people who've been supporting our work. It really, I've been doing this work for 30 years. I started PCRF back when I was finishing college,
hmm
and before there was anything called the internet and the ability to do the amazing work that you've been doing in the past 24 hours, and I'm sure since long before that. And I never imagined that there would be a time in the future that we would be able to raise this level of support, and more importantly, the solidarity and love that comes from all of your listeners and from you in particular for the people in Gaza. As somebody who's been going to Gaza for 30 years, I know, have many friends there. I've treated thousands of kids there. I know every refugee camp and every street like the back of my hand. What is needed there, obviously, is security and peace, but also a sense that their lives of their children are not forgotten, that they're not alone in this world, that when the world's fourth or fifth largest military drops bombs on these shacks in refugee camps and kills innocent families and innocent children, that the world doesn't just turn a blind eye. The governments may, and they do, and they are, but people like yourself are standing up and showing solidarity, compassion, and support for them. And that, believe me, that only strengthens and emboldens the innocent people there who are trying to struggle for freedom and for justice. So thank you for that,
you
all
are
of you.
a very admirable man and infinitely more courageous than I am. You have absolutely no grounds to thank me. I just spent 24 hours playing video games. Uh, your work is infinitely more difficult, and I am happy that this money will be going to a place where it is needed.
Thank you. Well, let me tell you a little bit about how that money is going to be used, if you
Oh,
don't mind.
please, yes, I
Because
would love to hear.
yeah, so we have, since we started the organization 30 years ago, I first started because I met an injured boy in a hospital in the West Bank. I was a journalist, and he had his legs blown off. He was 12 years old. And he was so cute and so full of life and so full of energy. And I did a story about him, and then I befriended him and his family, and I arranged for him treatment in the States, in Ohio, because this boy was in a wheelchair. And I'm thinking to myself, well, this beautiful child with this beautiful spirit is going to live the rest of his life in a wheelchair. So I was very fortunate to find doctors in Ohio that would take him for free and treated him for free. And after he came and got the care and went back home with new legs and walking and with money for college, people came to me and they started bringing me all these other kids who needed treatment outside they couldn't get from the West Bank, from Gaza. And I just started placing them in American hospitals and finding doctors who would treat them for free and hospitals that would treat them for free. And it just turned into an organization that grew and grew, and people believed in us, and they saw the kids coming without legs and leaving with legs, or coming with a hole in the heart and going home full of energy and a bright future. And whatever injury or disease that these kids had or birth defect, we were able to fix it, and we did it for free. The cost was only a plane ticket and some other minor expenses. And as we grew as an organization, we took on bigger responsibilities. We started sending doctors over. We figured, well, hey, if a child can come and it's a cost of a plane ticket, then we can send a doctor from the US or from Europe or anywhere in the world for the same cost, a plane ticket, and they can do 20 operations or 50 operations, and they can teach. Instead of just operating, they can also train the local doctors so they can do a better job in the future. So we grew the organization with that principle, which is, of course, to deal with those kids who need help right away. And if we need to bring them for treatment, we'll do that. And we still do that. We've sent over 2,000 kids out of the Middle East for free medical care, mostly to the US, but not only. And we sent tens of thousands of volunteer doctors from all over the world. If you name a country, there's a good chance a doctor from that country has come and volunteered, given time away from his family, away from his work, for free, to come and put himself in harm's way to work on the ground in Gaza, in the West Bank, in the refugee camps in Lebanon, and provide a variety of different kinds of treatment, whether it's open heart surgery, whether it's orthopedics, neurosurgery, plastic reconstructive, cleft lip, hand surgery, spine surgery, whatever it is. We fill that gap in the health sector by bringing these doctors over, and they do the work themselves. And that's how we've been working for several years. In the last couple of years, I'll tell you a little bit of a short story about myself personally. My first wife was Palestinian, and we were married for 17 years, and she was an amazing, beautiful woman, humanitarian, beautiful in spirit in every possible way. And we worked together. We built the organization for 17 years. And in 2008, she was diagnosed with leukemia during the first major Gaza war. I remember that she was diagnosed on Christmas Day of 2008. And around that same time, the Israelis started bombing Gaza for the first time, like this really massive, like we've seen in the past week. They did that for over a month in 2008, 2009. And while my wife was diagnosed with leukemia, she was a social worker for our organization. And she was in the hospital every single day as they were pumping this poisonous chemotherapy into her veins. Her hair was falling out. Her she had sores inside of her mouth. She was losing weight. She was getting sick. She was facing her own mortality. And yet she was on the computer every single day, arranging treatment for injured kids from Gaza. While she was dying, she was working to save the lives of these children. And when she passed away in July of 2009, breaking me as a man, as a father, as a husband, I moved my family back to Palestine, and we focused on building a cancer hospital for children, the same disease that killed my wife, a Palestinian woman with cancer. We built a cancer hospital in her name in Bethlehem. And that was the first major initiative that we took on outside of sending doctors there and bringing kids out. We said, hey, we can do something even bigger. And it was crowdfunded. It was exactly like you did over the past 24 hours. People gave $10, they gave $1,000, they gave $10,000, they gave $100, whatever, to build this cancer hospital in Bethlehem. And where children today, 9 years later, are getting excellent free care, whereas before they had to leave their families, beg military soldiers to cross checkpoints to get treatment that cost them money that they didn't have. And then since then, in February of 2019, we had to build another cancer hospital in Gaza because children in Gaza live in what has been called by the United Nations the world's largest prison, the world's largest open-air prison. And it's true. You can't get into Gaza or get out of Gaza without permission from the military, the Israeli military. There's a wall built around Gaza. So it is a prison. 2 million people live inside of it. Half of them are children. And a lot of those kids who are sick don't get access to adequate medical care. So we built a cancer hospital 2 years ago, again, crowdfunded. It wasn't from a corporation. It wasn't from a government. It wasn't from a billionaire on an island in the Pacific. It was from people like you who came together and support our organization. And we built this beautiful cancer department in the Gaza Strip. Thankfully has not been hit by a bomb yet. That is now treating these kids, hundreds of kids a year, who before went without care or went with substandard care or fragmented care are now getting treatment in Gaza for free, high expert care that we continue to support with social workers and providing chemotherapy, drugs, and whatever else is needed to ensure that their treatment continues. And we're taking on bigger and bigger projects. We're finishing an intensive care unit in Ramallah right now, a pediatric cardiac surgery department, multi-million-dollar projects. Again, all of it crowdfunded. And I'm so proud to have an organization where people like you can come together and have an impact on the lives of Palestinians that shows the love and solidarity and compassion and support that they deserve to get through this terrible humanitarian crime that is being committed against them every single day on their land, and for no justification other than that they are Palestinian, living on a land that the people who dominate and control don't want them there. And that's our story. That's my story. And I'm so privileged and so honored to have people like yourself supporting us. There's a new generation of young people coming up who understand truth. They're not brainwashed or fed lies like I was through limited media access. You guys have your own way of knowing what's really happening in the world. I'm so excited that the changes are going to come from the younger generation, the generation that will take on these issues that we failed to solve. These injustices, these crimes against humanity are going to be resolved because your next generation is going to come up and solve them. And I'm very proud of that. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak a little bit. Hope I didn't speak too much. Thank you for all of your hard work. And what we're doing now on the ground in Gaza, despite our office being bombed yesterday and being completely destroyed, you can follow me on Twitter. I'll be sharing more photographs of that. But we today, despite that, our team was out in the field risking their own lives because there's no safe place in Gaza. I can speak from my own experience. I was there during several wars. And when you're there on the ground in Gaza during these times, there's no safe place. There's a drone overhead, this constant buzzing. You can't really see it. You look up in the sky and you just hear this drone like a mosquito, a little bit louder up over your head. And you're wondering, is that missile that he's going to launch going to hit next to me? Is it going to hit that building that I'm driving by in this taxi or walking by or wherever? The fear is unlike anything you can possibly imagine. And my team is in the field today. We're in the field this morning, despite this constant threat from above, providing hospitals hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of medical supplies and medical equipment that they need to treat innocent victims of bombings and of violence. In addition to that, we run a variety of different projects on the ground in Gaza. In addition to being the main organization in the world that sends in doctors, and we have a team of doctors, emergency doctors, and trying to enter Gaza today, we do a variety of different other types of humanitarian projects. Bringing kids out, that's something we do. Sending doctors there to provide treatment in local hospitals and train local hospitals, that's something we do. Nobody else does it quite like PCRF or even anywhere close to the kind of work that we do. But in addition to that, we have a mental health program in Gaza. As you can imagine, the mental and psychological trauma that children have to go through every single day, living under the threat of death, under the threat of violence, not under the threat of violence, but actually in violence. And we've seen that nearly 70% of all children in Gaza, 70%, and let's remember, half the population of Gaza are children, 70% of those children suffer from some form of post-traumatic stress disorder. Children. So post-traumatic stress disorder, just to talk a little bit about that, is something that, if you might remember, was called shell shock from the First World War, Second World War. Soldiers would be in battles against Nazis or against the Japanese or whoever and come back with this 1,000-yard stare. And these were soldiers. These were men, hardened men who'd seen and experienced violence. Well, these are not hardened men in Gaza. These are 6-year-old kids. These are 8-year-old children who see buildings collapse around them, who see their parents being killed, who see their relatives being killed, who see violence every single day and don't know how to deal with it. They're psychologically not developed enough. Nobody is, actually. There's no human being who's psychologically developed enough to understand man's crimes against man. But children in particular don't understand what's happening. In the middle of the night, the bombs going off, the fear in their parents, the fear in their neighbors and in their fellow siblings. And these kids who become older at the age of 12 and 13 start wetting their beds again, start regressing in their development. They can't concentrate anymore. They can't function anymore. They can't go to school anymore. These are lasting psychological scars that are taking the place in Gaza by the hundreds of thousands because of these bombings. They're not physical scars. You don't see children, you don't see hundreds of thousands of children walking around with missing limbs, but you see there are hundreds of thousands of children who carry these scars inside of them. And we have a mental health program set up to help provide counseling and therapy for these kids. Unfortunately, We don't see the big results as we do on the medical surgical side, simply because fixing the wounded spirit and the wounded soul of a child, especially when those bombs are still dropping and that fear is still palatable, is really very difficult to fix and repair. Nonetheless, that's one of our programs, mental health for children. In addition to that, we have an amputee program in Gaza. Some of you may know, if you go back and Google the Great Return March a couple of years ago, thousands of kids, teenage boys and girls would go to the border every Friday and demonstrate peacefully to show the world that they want freedom for their people. They were tired of living in what the UN called, as I started to speak at the early part of this interview, the world's largest open air prison. These young people, probably the age of most of the people listening right now, teenagers, a little bit older than that sometimes, would go and demonstrate at the border and say, we want our freedom. We're refugees. We want to return to our homeland. And snipers at the other side of the border would shoot them. And we have dozens of kids who are amputees, who are missing limbs, and the rest of their lives they'll be amputees. The rest of their lives they'll wake up in the morning and put on an artificial leg, if they have an artificial leg. And our organization is providing them artificial limbs. We're repairing them. We're providing mental health therapy for them. We created a community for them to feel less ostracized and less different from anyone else in society because they're missing limbs. That's one of our programs. We have a sponsorship program. Kids who have chronic health conditions every single month, every single day, we have sponsors all over the world who give $50, $60 a month, and we give that money to pharmacies and to food banks where those kids get the food and medicine that they need to get over their disease or their handicap or their chronic illness, to help their families who don't have money. 70% of the people in Gaza are living under the poverty line, that live on less than $2 a day. 70%. So you can imagine, if you have a child in your family who has cerebral palsy or has autism or has some kind of medical condition that needs medication or needs medical supplies or needs something that the family can't afford because they have to put food on the table. So our organization comes in and provides that on a humanitarian basis. Again, we're not a political organization. We don't take sides with any of the internal political parties. We're there to help alleviate the hardship and suffering of children on the ground in Gaza, whose lives are being controlled completely and impacted completely by politics. And we do that. We're not a religious organization. We help any child who needs help, regardless of their nationality, regardless of their religion. Some of the other programs we do on the ground there, we have an orphan sponsorship program. What we saw from the war in 2014, I'm sorry if I said war, the bombings of 2014 in Gaza, very similar to the bombings that are happening today, but this campaign in 2014, this bombing campaign on Gaza in 2014 lasted for 55 days. Over 1,000 civilians were killed. Hundreds of children were killed. Thousands of children were injured. Our organization treated many of them, and many of them were made orphans. Parents were killed, and they were put into an orphan sponsorship program where we provide them humanitarian aid on a monthly basis through a sponsorship. People outside give money and sponsor them. So those are some of the projects that we have on the ground in Gaza. Every week we identify children who need medical care, and we provide that. It's a one-time sponsorship program, so kids who need wheelchairs, kids who need eyeglasses, kids who need hearing aids, kids who need surgery, kids who need anything, any humanitarian need that any child has, our organization is there to provide it for them. Free, without politics, without religion, with the very basic humanitarian idea that every child, whether you're Palestinian, whether you're from any country in the world, of any religion, any color, any creed, you deserve the same access to health care and support as any other child in the world. And you guys are making that possible. You're giving us the resources to respond to this crisis today, to continue our work on the ground there, which we've been doing for 30 years. And despite our office being destroyed, despite all of the what seems to be a hopeless situation and conditions on the ground there, we're not going to give up. We're never going to give up. We've been doing this for 30 years. I've dedicated my life to it. I'm never going to give up. So thank you guys for giving us this chance to keep going. I'm happy to hear from any of you. Any of you want to reach out to me and say, hey, I'd like more information. I'd like to be a part of your organization. I'd like to volunteer. I'd like to share the work that you guys are doing. I'd like to see how I can communicate with those kids in Gaza. Maybe I can become friends with one of them, some of them, reach out to me. Go to our website, PCRF.net. Reach out to me on Twitter. Whatever you want to do, I'm here to help. We appreciate your support. This is the kind of people power that's going to change the world, and you guys are at the leading edge of that. So I thank you guys for everything you're doing. Happy to answer any questions. I'm sorry if I talk too much. Just trying to cover everything, and I'm really excited about having this opportunity to talk to your folks.
Well, you got another $8,000 while you were talking.
Maybe I should keep going.
Yeah, well, you know, after that sales pitch, man, I guess I got to stay up for another 24 hours till it hits 500,000, huh?
You're you're a hero.
No,
You're a hero.
don't eat, not from you. Don't you even. It's very heartening to know there are people like you and the people you work with out there.
Well, listen, there's this is the thing about today's world. We all do what we can, and some people have money and don't have time. Some people have time and don't have money. Some people have certain skills that they apply, and we all need to work together collectively. That's the thing. This is where a man has never presented himself in his best light, which is collectively. We always fail when we come in groups. Traditionally, you know, this is where the Nazis. You meet individual Germans in 1936, and they were probably decent people. Yeah, when they got together, you know, and you know, started spouting anti-Semitism, then they became the system became created monsters out of them. And this is where we as humans need to come together collectively for the source of good and unify behind the very basic concept of healing others, helping others, standing for justice, standing for freedom, and not buying into this propaganda and lies, which is all around us today on social media and through the power structures that want us to believe that bombing buildings in Gaza is somehow a justified act against the people who are deserving of this kind of treatment. And so I'm very honored. We all do what we can, basically, is what I'm saying. And what you did, you have no idea how big of impact what you did in the last 24 hours is going to have. But I assure you that you will see an enormous life-changing impact on the lives of hundreds of Palestinian kids, if not more, that we're able to intervene and support. We have plans in the next couple of months to send a mobile clinic into Gaza, a big one, that we can take throughout the Gaza Strip with doctors in it and provide treatment in the field to children in refugee camps and in remote villages who don't have access to care. That's one of the big projects we're doing, in addition to the ones I mentioned already. So we can't wait to get back when the bombing stops and be able to move freely again on the ground in Gaza. Right now, you know, everybody's life's at risk when you put your head out of the door, and even inside the door, your life's at risk. But soon this bombing's going to stop. It can't continue forever. Our organization's going to continue to do our work, and the impact that you guys have had in the past 24 hours is going to be huge. And I'm going to share it with you guys. Follow me on Twitter. Follow our organization on all the social media channels. You're going to see the kind of work that we're doing, and you're going to be very proud that you were a part of it. And very proud of yourself for standing up during this time when so many people either want to justify or ignore or excuse what's happening to the people in Gaza. You guys are standing on the right side of history. You're standing on the right side of justice, and you're doing something there to show the people you care and that their lives of their children do matter. That's the most important thing.
Well, you got another $4,000 during that bit.
Okay. Are there keywords that I'm hitting here?
Yeah, if you keep going, we might be able to refine some kind of algorithm. No,
Yeah.
don't you worry. You haven't heard the last of me. I'm more than happy to keep contact with you in the future. I
Yeah,
think
please.
it's important that the people who watch me understand that there's more to this than the consumption of media. And I think it's important they realize that it's impossible, or sorry, that it's actually quite possible to fight back against overwhelming power with irresistible
Yeah.
strength, which is what you have. And the people who work for you, who I'm not speaking to, but I imagine are also of tremendous character.
They are.
I am not, which is why I'm over here. But there are perhaps people in my audience who are. And I imagine to them this is, at least I would hope, quite inspiring. I'm really, really happy that you could take the time to come on here and speak with me and with my audience.
It's my pleasure. Anytime you wish for me to join, I will be in Palestine on Friday, I hope. I'll be able to enter. And I'll be happy to do any next time I'm in Gaza or anytime you guys want to speak to me or you want any type of information about the work we're doing or to speak to some of the kids who we work with or whatever. You just reach out to me and let me know. I'll be happy to do it. And you're right. I mean, look, these power structures today, a lot of them are built on lies. And we know that truth always, no matter how powerful that lie is, it crumbles in the face of truth. It just takes time. It takes courage. It takes dedication. It takes persistence, and it takes patience. And if you have all those things, you're going to be victorious. And that's what the people of Gaza have, all of those things.
there's a paradigm shift happening right now. The support for Palestine that we're seeing from the more left-leaning people in this country is unprecedented. Not just Democratic Congress people, but media figures like John Oliver, one of the most listened to political spokesmen in the country, are condemning Israel for their actions. I hope, that we may soon be approaching a future where Israel's crimes are not ignored and where all of the people in that part of the world can live in peace and security. Hopefully, we're closer to that future than we think we are, but it's going to take a lot of people like you, and I imagine a lot of money going to people like you. So,
Well, let me just say this, which is this is not the position of supporting Palestine, taking a stand on the issue of justice and freedom for the Palestinian people, is a pro-Israeli stance, in my opinion.
I completely
And
agree.
I'll tell you why, and I'm sure you agree with this. Israel is a state that needs security. Its people deserve security. They deserve the right to live without having to fear that rockets are going to fall from the sky or somebody might blow themselves up on a bus. And the only way that you can achieve that status of security, that point of security, is when you don't dominate and control on other people by force. It's not safe for the Israelis. It's not safe for the Palestinians. It's not safe for the Americans or anybody else in that region of the world. Only when people are free and they live side by side in equality with the same rights and the same privileges that are bestowed upon all of us in a democratic society will there be peace and security for everyone. So freeing the Palestinians is actually freeing the Israelis and giving them a better sense and a better chance for a better future and a better sense of security. So I actually consider myself pro-Israeli in the sense that working for justice and freedom in Palestine will bring security and peace to the Israeli people. And I hope anybody who out there who takes the side that anything pro-Palestinian is anti-Israeli looks at it from that perspective. It's not. We're all on the same side here, working for justice and freedom.
Unquestionably, there are no people on this planet who would not benefit from the equitable treatment of the Palestinian people. It is in everyone's best interest, save, I don't know, military industrial contractors. I don't know. I'm sure there's somebody somewhere. The vast majority of people will benefit from this. So
Agreed.
Thank you for doing what you can to bring that about.
My pleasure. It's my honor and my privilege. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to do more there and have a bigger impact. It's much appreciated.
So, the donation will find its way to you soon.
Great.
After we're done with this, I'll cross all the T's and dot the I's, and
Okay.
then I'll send it on over.
That would be excellent. I appreciate it very much. Thank you to all of your listeners, followers, everybody who donated, everybody who's been involved. I've been checking out the Twitter exchanges, and it's been overwhelmingly positive. And the love and the solidarity and the support out there is very inspiring. And trust me, you have no idea what that means to the people in Gaza, to know that they're not forgotten, to know that you care, to know, as you said, there's this paradigm shift that's taking place. It is. And it's being fueled by people like you. And the impact that it's going to have on the long term is not just on the lives of Palestinian children who get medical care or humanitarian aid. It's going to mean freedom for the Palestinian people, the most important thing that we're missing right now. So thank you all for making that possible.
Absolutely. Another 3,000, incidentally.
Amazing.
I hope I can talk to you again in the future. Until then,
anytime.
Take care and stay safe.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Much appreciated. Thank you, and God bless everybody. Take care.
Be well.
Thanks. Bye-bye.